Every morning, rows of cadets marched into the combat hall with stiff backs and quiet voices. The hall was huge, shaped like a hollow ring with a training field glowing in the center. Holographic projectors hummed softly above them. The light painted everyone in pale blue. Rian stood in line with the others, hands behind his back. He looked calm, but his eyes were always moving. He noticed things, the flicker in the lights, the delay in the projector, the way some cadets stared at the floor instead of forward. At the front of the hall stood Instructor Hale. Hale was tall, with a voice that cut through the room like a blade. He did not shout, he did not need to. When he spoke, everyone listened. "Today," Hale said, "you will learn the most important lesson of your training." The lights dimmed. The projector came alive. Space filled the center field. A ship drifted there, its hull marked with the Academy's symbol. It looked peaceful. Then the stars behind it bent. A ripple spread across the darkness like a wave in water. Something moved inside that ripple. Not a ship. Not a creature anyone could name. It looked like a storm made of shadows and light, folding in on itself. The ship tried to turn. It never finished. The storm touched it. The ship vanished. No explosion, no debris, just gone. A quiet gasp spread through the cadets. Hale let the silence sit. "This," he said, "is a roaming extinction entity. We call it the Drift." The storm moved again, swallowing another vessel, then another. Each disappearance was clean and fast. "No weapon," Hale continued, "has ever stopped it." The projection froze. The room felt smaller. A cadet near Rian whispered, "Then how do you fight it?" "You don't. You run. Survival is victory." Most cadets nodded. The lesson was simple. Accept the limit. Live longer. Rian kept staring at the frozen image. The storm wasn't random. He could see a rhythm in the folds. A pulse. When the ship tried to turn, the storm reacted before the movement finished. It predicted. His hand rose before he could stop himself. Hale turned slowly. "Yes, Cadet Rian?" It hesitates. A few cadets glanced at him. Hale's eyes narrowed. "Explain." Rian stepped forward slightly. "When the first ship moves, the storm folds inward, but there's a half-second delay. It's small, but it's there. It reacts. It doesn't just erase." Hale stared at the projection. For a moment, the instructor said nothing. Then he replied, "Observation is good, but your conclusion is wrong. That delay changes nothing." Rian shook his head. "If it reacts, it can be confused." A murmur ran through the hall. Hale's voice hardened. "Cadet, the Drift has consumed fleets older than your home world. Entire weapons divisions failed. Do not mistake curiosity for understanding." Ryan felt heat rise in his face, but he held his ground. "Yes, sir, but that is enough." "Lesson complete," Hale said. "Prepare for simulation drills." Some gave Rian annoyed looks. Others looked impressed. He ignored them. His mind was still on that half-second delay. Simulation pods lined the next chamber like metal coffins standing upright. Each cadet stepped into one. The doors sealed with a hiss. Rian's pod lit up around him. Calm voice filled his ears. "Scenario loading." He sat inside a simulated patrol craft. Controls glowed under his fingers. Breathing slowed. This was familiar. Then the alert screamed. The Drift formed ahead. Even knowing it wasn't real, his chest tightened. The simulation directive flashed. Retreat. Every training session drilled the same rule. Run, preserve the ship. He remembered the hesitation. He opened a hidden panel in the sim interface. A restricted menu blinked red. Unauthorized module detected. He hesitated. Then he loaded it. The weapon appeared in the ship systems. It wasn't a cannon, it was a harmonic emitter, experimental and unstable. He had studied its theory during off hours. It produced patterned pulses, meant to disrupt energy fields. The Drift moved closer. Warning alarms filled the pod. Rian locked the emitter. "Come on," he whispered. He fired. It struck the storm. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the Drift flickered. The fold stuttered. The storm shape collapsed inward like it had forgotten how to exist. Rian's breath caught. It worked. The storm reformed instantly. But it didn't move. It turned. Not physically, but Rian felt it. The entire presence focused on him. The pod temperature dropped. The Drift surged. The simulation screamed in overload. Lights burst white. The pod shook violently. "Simulation error," the calm voice said, now distorted. "Critical failure." The pod door blasted open. Rian stumbled out onto the chamber floor. Sparks rained from the ceiling projectors. Other cadets were climbing out of their pods, shouting in confusion. Instructor Hale stood in the doorway, face pale. "What did you do?" Hale demanded. Rian's mouth went dry. "I loaded an emitter." "You what?" Before Rian could answer, the central projector flickered back to life on its own. The drift appeared again. No simulation grid. No scenario markers. Just the storm. It pulsed once. The lights in the room dimmed in response. Every cadet froze. "That's not part of the drill," someone whispered. Hale stepped forward slowly, eyes locked on the image. System control, terminate projection. No response. The storm flickered again. Rian felt that same focus settle on him, a pressure behind his eyes. His heartbeat thundered in his ears. "It's reacting," he said softly. Hale didn't deny it this time. Technicians rushed into the chamber. Panels were opened. Commands were shouted. The projector fought them. Then, as suddenly as it appeared, the drift vanished. The lights stabilized. Silence fell. Hale turned to Ryan. For the first time, the instructor looked uncertain. "Detain Cadet Rian," he ordered quietly. 2 security officers stepped forward. Rian didn't resist. His mind replayed the flicker again and again. It hadn't just reacted. It had noticed him. They escorted him to a small observation room with a single chair and a glass wall. He sat, hands clasped, trying to slow his breathing. Minutes passed. The door opened. Hale entered alone. He studied Rian for a long moment. "Tell me exactly what you loaded." "The harmonic emitter module," Rian said. "I wanted to test the delay. You bypassed security." "Yes, sir." Hale paced once across the room. "The projector logs show a feedback loop. Your pulse pattern didn't just hit the simulation. It matched something? Matched? We replayed the data." He tapped a control. The glass wall lit up with footage of the drift flickering under the harmonic pulse. Frame by frame, the storm's folds aligned with the emitter's rhythm. "It's synchronized," Hale said quietly. For a fraction of a second, it tried to understand the signal. Rian leaned forward. "So, it can be confused." Hale met his eyes. "It can be engaged." The weight of that word hung in the air. Ryan's pulse quickened. "Sir, what if—" An alarm cut him off. Not the Academy drill alarm. A deeper tone. Hale's communicator lit up. He read the message, and the color drained from his face. "It's real," Hale said. Rian's stomach dropped. "The drift?" Hale nodded slowly. "A patrol fleet just reported contact. Same energy signature. Same pattern." Ryan stood without thinking. "Sir, the emitter—" Then he hesitated. The alarm continued to echo through the academy. Hale looked back at the replay. The flicker. The hesitation. He exhaled slowly. "Stay here." He turned to leave, then stopped at the door. "Cadet," he said without facing him, "if your pulse made it hesitate once, it might do it again." The door slid shut. Ryan sat back down, heart racing. Somewhere out there, the storm was moving. And now, it knew a new sound. Rian sat in the observation room, his hands still shaking from the earlier simulation. Outside, the academy buzzed with urgent activity. Alarms rang. Officers ran through corridors, shouting over comms. Cadets and technicians moved like ants around broken machinery. Everyone was tense. Everyone knew the drift was real. A large screen flickered to life. Command officer appeared, voice steady but tense. "The fleet in Sector 47 reports a massive anomaly. Energy readings match the drift signature. All ships are under threat. Evacuate civilian zones immediately. Stand by for engagement orders." "I would be so happy." Rian's stomach tightened. He thought of the harmonic emitter. The flicker. The momentary hesitation. Could it work on a real drift? He had no proof, only the small data from simulation. Hale appeared beside him, silent. He watched Rian's face carefully. "You will not interfere," Hale said firmly. "This is not a drill." "Sir, I can help. I know the pulse. I can force it to react again. Maybe give the fleet a chance." "You disobeyed protocol already. You almost destroyed the simulation grid." "How do I know you won't make it worse?" Rian's jaw tightened. "Because I've studied it. I know the rhythm. I saw its hesitation." Hale sighed. He looked away at the screen. On it, the energy readings pulsed. Dark and angry, moving toward populated systems. You want to risk everything on a human theory? Rian met his gaze. Yes, sir. I do. Then Hale nodded slowly. Fine. But you go under my supervision. One misstep and you're out. Understood? Yes, sir, Ryan said, trying to steady his voice. By mid-afternoon, the small response team was aboard a stealth corvette. Rian checked the harmonic emitter again. It fit in a concealed cargo compartment, humming faintly. Every pulse had been calibrated, every note studied. He trusted it more than any weapon in the fleet. The fleet approached the sector quietly, avoiding detection. Rian stared at the stars through the viewport. His fingers hovered over the controls. Somewhere in the darkness, the drift waited. It moved silently but with purpose. Ships before them vanished without warning, leaving only void. Maintain formation, Hale said over comms. His voice was calm, but Rian knew the instructor's mind was racing. Do not engage unless absolutely necessary. Retreat if we lose visual contact. His heart beat fast. He remembered the simulation, the brief moment of hesitation. He had to recreate it. Then it appeared. A wave of dark energy folding stars into itself. Ships quivered. The drift had sensed them. It moved in a smooth curve, expanding like a living shadow. The fleet held its course. Rian swallowed. He opened the emitter compartment. The machine hummed louder, responding to his presence. He activated the pulse sequence. The drift recoiled slightly. Not in pain, not in destruction, confusion. For a few seconds, it stalled mid-motion as if reconsidering. Hale noticed immediately. Ryan, status? It's reacting, Ryan said. It's confused. It hesitated, just like in the simulation. The fleet commander hesitated. Wait, hold fire. Rian adjusted the pulse frequency. The drift flickered more, folds twisting in ways no ship or sensor could understand. The crew held their breath. Then the drift moved again. Faster, smarter. It began to adapt. Every flicker, every hesitation lasted less time. It seemed to study the pulse, learn from it. It's analyzing the signal. We need a new approach. I can change the pattern. I can force another reaction. Hale hesitated. It's learning faster than you predicted. One wrong frequency, and it may attack indiscriminately. Are you sure? Rian nodded. I have to try. He adjusted the emitter, shifting the harmonics carefully. The drift shivered under the new pattern. Its energy spread unevenly. Ships that had already fallen began drifting closer to the edge of the storm's influence. A warning alarm blared. The drift lashed out. A corvette was caught. It vanished instantly. Rian saw the void where it had been. His stomach sank. Hale's voice was firm. Ryan, pull back. I can't, Ryan said. If we retreat, it will reach the populated systems. The drift hesitated again, longer this time. The fleet noticed. The corvettes had a chance to maneuver. No one fired weapons, only watched. The moment stretched painfully. Rian focused on the pulse, sending waves into the storm, adjusting as he went. Slowly, it became apparent. The drift's movement faltered. It was unstable. Hale's voice dropped to a whisper. By the stars. It's like it's thinking. He had never seen anything like it. A weapon of pure destruction, learning in real time, reacting to human input. The realization hit him hard. They were not facing a mindless predator. They were facing intelligence. The fleet commander spoke again. We need to retreat now. It's too risky. Rian shook his head. No. We can make it hesitate longer. I can give the fleet a chance to escape safely. Hale looked at him sharply. And what if it adapts fully before you finish? Rian's jaw tightened. Then I hope it hesitates just a second more than before. He sent another pulse. The drift recoiled sharply, distorting the surrounding space. A massive ripple spread through the stars like a heartbeat. Ships at the edges felt it, their sensors thrown into chaos. The fleet commander took a deep breath. All ships, follow the drift, use the interference, move fast. The corvettes and frigates slipped through the edges of the storm, guided by Rian's harmonic pulse. Several vessels had minor system malfunctions, but none were destroyed. The drift struggled to refocus. Its energy folds twisted, snapping like lightning. Rian knew it could recover at any moment. One wrong move and the fleet would be lost. Hale watched, silent, as the corvettes passed through. Finally, the last of the fleet exited the sector. The drift paused in the darkness, then retreated, leaving nothing behind but emptiness. The corvette's crew cheered quietly. Relief washed over them. They had survived. Ryan sank into his seat, heart still racing. He knew the drift was not gone. It had adapted, learned, and it had noticed them. Hale finally spoke. Cadet, you were right. It does react. It can be engaged. Rian looked at him. But it's learning faster than we predicted. One day, it won't just hesitate. It'll understand us. Hale nodded slowly. We underestimated it. And maybe we underestimated you as well. The Corvette turned back toward the academy. Silence filled the cabin. Everyone was too exhausted to speak. Rian stared out at the stars. Somewhere in the void, the drift moved, adapting and observing. He knew it would return. And next time, it would be ready. Hale placed a hand on his shoulder. We'll prepare. And next time, we'll be ready too. But you need to understand something, Rian. This isn't a game. No weapon, no strategy has worked against it before. You were lucky. No, sir. Not lucky. It hesitated because I made it hesitate. It reacts to reason, to thought. Then maybe humanity has a chance where no machine does. The human cadet let the words settle. Somewhere deep in space, the drift pulsed. Waiting, learning. Rian didn't feel fear. He felt something stronger. Resolve. The academy was on high alert. Every officer, cadet, and technician knew one truth. The drift had been engaged by a human mind, and humans never gave up. The instructor watched Rian quietly. For the first time, he realized the cadet might have changed everything. Rian stared out at the darkness beyond the fleet. He whispered to himself, "We will stop it, even if no weapon can." Somewhere in the void, a ripple returned, subtle and silent. The drift had felt the human pulse, and it remembered. The calm before the storm had ended, and the real battle was only beginning. The academy was tense the next morning. Every hallway was full of officers and cadets moving quickly. Alerts still flashed on every monitor. Rian walked through the corridors feeling the weight of the previous day's events pressing on him. The drift had shown that it could react to human logic. That thought alone was enough to keep everyone awake at night. Hale met Ryan at the academy's main command room. His face was serious, almost grim. "The fleet returned intact," he said. "But the drift is not gone. We tracked its movement. It's heading toward a trade sector densely populated with civilians. If it arrives, there will be no survivors." Rian clenched his fists. "Then we have to do more than just track it. We need to understand it." Hale shook his head. "Understand it?" "Cadet, you saw what it does. Ships vanish. Fleets vanish. You can't understand a weapon like this. Only survive it." "I saw the hesitation," Rian said firmly. "It reacts. It can be engaged. We can make it hesitate longer, maybe even control the situation." Hale studied him carefully. "That hesitation was brief. And you used an untested harmonic emitter. You risked everyone's lives." Rian looked down. "I know. But if we don't try, the sector will be destroyed." After a long pause, he nodded slowly. "Very well. I will authorize a small strike team. You will lead it, but you go under my direct supervision. Any mistake, and we abort immediately." Rian's heart raced. "Yes, sir. Thank you." By mid-afternoon, Rian was aboard a stealth corvette with a small team of cadets. The ship's hull was black and silent, designed to slip past sensors. Inside, Rian prepared the harmonic emitter again. He had modified it overnight, adjusting the pulse sequence to match what he believed would confuse the drift more effectively. "Cadet," Hale said, walking past him, "remember that this is not a weapon. This is a tool. You are not here to destroy it. You are here to make it hesitate." Rian nodded, swallowing hard. The corridor of the Corvette hummed softly. The team was tense, each cadet focused on their stations. They reached the edge of the drift's path. The darkness of space seemed to bend in the viewport, stars twisted, distant lights flickering as if frightened. Then the storm appeared. It moved like a living shadow. Its energy pulsed, folding space around it. The Corvette's systems trembled. Every cadet held their breath. "Deploy the pulse," Hale instructed. Rian activated the harmonic emitter. Waves of sound-like energy rippled through space, reaching into the drift. The storm folded, twisted, then froze. For a moment, it was as if time itself had stopped. The cadets gasped. Hale's eyes widened. "Keep it steady," he said. "Do not let it recover." Rian adjusted the frequency, changing the pattern slowly. The drift twisted again, folding inward and outward. Then it started moving once more, faster, learning from the pulse. "It's adapting," Rian whispered. "It's learning." Hale nodded grimly. "It always will. That is what makes it dangerous. You can't destroy it. Only delay it." Rian's mind raced. He had an idea. If the drift could learn, maybe it could be reasoned with. Not like a human, but like a pattern. If he could send a signal it could recognize as instruction rather than threat, it might stabilize. Sir, Rian said, what if we communicate? Not attack, just send a structured pattern to it? Maybe it can respond. Hale looked at him in surprise. You mean try to reason with it? Hale's brow furrowed. That is extremely risky. We don't know if it will respond or retaliate. I know, Rian said, but waiting means destruction. We need a chance. Hale studied him for a long moment, then nodded. You will try, but I go with you. No one touches that storm without me watching. The Corvette approached the outer edges of the drift. Space seemed heavier here, bending and stretching. Inside the ship, instruments went wild. Gravity fluctuated, lights flickered, even time felt strange. Rian's hands moved over the controls, adjusting the emitter. Every pulse was precise. The storm reacted immediately, folding and stretching, then pausing. Hale's voice was calm, steadying. Remember, Cadet, you are not here to destroy, you are here to interface. Rand focused. He sent the new pulse sequence. It was more than a pattern. It was structured logic. Repetition, symmetry, small signals embedded in larger waves. The drift froze. Its folds twisted slowly, almost as if it was thinking. Cadets leaned forward in shock. No weapon had ever done this. No attack had ever made it pause like this. Rian adjusted the pulse again. The storm's energy fluctuated, then shifted. A core began to appear inside the darkness, a small geometric shape surrounded by endless folds. Sir, look, Rian said, it has a core, something structured. Yeah. Hale's eyes widened. It's not just a weapon. It's a construct. Designed. Intelligent. Rian nodded. That's why it reacted. It can recognize patterns. Maybe it can follow them. The Corvette trembled as the drift seemed to focus on the pulse. Time distorted. The cadets felt memory flashes, images of their lives and fears. Panic rose in the small cabin. One cadet, Jero, nearly hit the abort button. I can't hold it. Rian grabbed his arm. You have to. Trust the pattern. Ha. 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 Ha 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 ha. Jaro nodded reluctantly. The pulse continued. Slowly, the storm stabilized. Its folds shifted in place, reacting to the signals, not attacking. The core pulsed once, then twice. The storm's energy seemed to align with the Corvette's pulse. Rian felt a strange calm. Rian said, I think it's listening. Hale's voice dropped to a whisper. It's responding. The cadets stared in disbelief. The drift had not attacked. It had paused. It had focused on the pulse. Rian continued sending structured waves. The core pulsed in response, almost like a heartbeat. The storm's folds stabilized further. For a few moments, space itself seemed still. Then the Corvette's sensors detected something strange. Energy readings from distant structures, previously dormant, were activating. Massive automated constructs, long hidden, began to emerge from the void. They're responding to the signal, Hale said. His voice was tense. Not just the drift. Something else, its makers, perhaps. Rian's pulse faltered. Sir, what do we do? We proceed carefully. Maintain the pattern. Don't provoke them. Our goal is not to fight, but to stabilize the drift. Only then can we deal with the rest. The drift moved slowly, folding around the Corvette. Its energy was immense, yet controlled. The cadets felt the power like a wave against their bodies. Rian kept the pulse steady. Every adjustment, every note mattered. The drift's core pulsed in harmony with the emitter. Slowly, it seemed to align. Okay, focus on the core, Rian said to the team. We need the core stable before anything else happens. Minutes passed. The pulse continued. The drift's energy folds gradually softened. The massive constructs in the distance halted their movement. The Corvette trembled under the strain, but the system held. Hale watched silently. You may have done what no one else could, he said. You've engaged it, not with weapons, but with thought. Rian's hands ached, but he continued. It's learning and responding.
We can guide it, sir.
We can make it protect instead of destroy. Then we prepare for the next step. We must enter deeper, understand the core, and rewrite its directive. Only then can we save the sector. Rian swallowed hard. The drift pulsed around them, immense, infinite, yet strangely listening. Somewhere deep inside, a pattern waited to be rewritten. He whispered to himself, "We can do this. We must." Outside, the void was silent. The drift pulsed with a new rhythm, and the human cadet had found the first key. The real test was still ahead. The core waited. The drift waited. And Rian knew the danger had only begun. Somewhere beyond the stars, ancient machines stirred. Something had noticed the human pulse, and the universe itself seemed to hold its breath. The Corvette moved silently through the dark expanse, carrying Rian, Hale, and the small team of cadets closer to the drift. Space felt heavier here, as if the void itself had weight. The stars seemed to bend and flicker unnaturally. The drift pulsed ahead, enormous and alive, moving with a purpose no ship could match. Rian kept his hands on the harmonic emitter. Its soft hum filled the cabin, steadying his nerves. Every pulse he sent out now was deliberate. Not attack, but communication. The drift had responded once. It could respond again, but something had changed. Something larger was stirring. Hale's voice was quiet but firm. The drift's reaction drew attention. "We're not alone out here." "Who else?" "The Makers?" Hale nodded grimly. "Ancient automated constructs, long thought dormant. They interpret certain signals as activation commands, and right now, they're active." The ship's sensors detected movement in the distance. Massive structures, bigger than the largest cruisers in the fleet, were emerging from shadowed regions of space. Their surfaces reflected no light. Their shapes were angular, geometric, alien. Each one radiated energy, a presence that made the Corvette's hull vibrate. "They're moving toward the sector," Hale said. "If they detect human presence, they will assume contamination and execute extermination protocols." Ryan's pulse faltered. "The drift? It reacted to our signal. But can it fight them?" Hale's face darkened. It's not designed to fight." "It's a weapon, but it has adaptive logic. You may have confused it, but we cannot rely on that alone. The drift may stabilize long enough to protect, but the constructs will not stop. Then we guide it. We make it see what to protect, not just react. Do you understand the risk? One mistake, and both the drift and the sector will be destroyed." "I understand," Ryan said, "and I have to try." The drift pulsed around them, folds twisting, energy spreading in waves that distorted the stars. Rian sent the emitter's pulse again, now refined to match the drift's core frequency. The storm shivered, slowed, then stabilized slightly. "Good," Hale said. "Keep it steady. Any sudden shift could provoke it." Ryan adjusted the pattern, embedding small signals of structure into the wave. Not attack, not destruction. Instruction. Direction. The drift's fold shifted. For a moment, it seemed to listen. The cadets gasped as the core pulsed, responding to the structured harmonic waves. Then the constructs approached. Massive arms of energy reached toward the drift. The Corvette trembled. Rian's pulse went faster, trying to stabilize the storm. "They're attacking it," Jarrow shouted. "We can't hold this." "We're not holding it. We're guiding it." Its folds twisted violently, energy spilling outward. The Corvette shuddered. Instruments went wild. Time seemed to stretch. The cadets saw strange visions, memories, fears, flashes of their own lives. Panic rose, but Rian remained focused. "Focus on the core," he shouted. "Everything depends on it." The drift's energy aligned with the harmonic waves. For a brief moment, the storm stabilized, forming a shield around the Corvette. The massive constructs reached the edge of that shield and paused. Confused, they did not advance further. Hale's voice was calm, but tense. "It's working. The drift understands, at least partially. Keep it steady." Rian adjusted the pulse again. This time, he embedded a more complex sequence. Direction. The drift's core responded immediately, folding inward, then outward. The constructs tried to adjust, but their movement slowed as the drift's shield expanded. The cadets held their breath. Space itself seemed to vibrate with energy. The Corvette trembled, but the pattern held. Hale studied the readings. "The drift can protect, but it won't fight. Not completely. We have to guide it further. We need a new approach to stop the constructs." Rian nodded. He realized the drift was no longer just a weapon. It was adaptive intelligence. It could learn, respond, and protect if guided correctly. The harmonic pulse had to be more than a signal. It had to teach it a directive. "Sir," Rian said, "I can interface with it directly, not physically, but through the harmonic pattern. I can try to rewrite its directive, make it choose protection instead of destruction." Hale's eyes widened. "That is extremely risky. You may overload it or provoke it. One wrong pulse." "I know," Ryan said firmly, "but we have no choice. If the constructs activate fully, the sector is lost." Hale studied him for a long moment. Finally, he nodded. "Very well. I go with you. Doctor, we enter its core, and we try." The Corvette advanced into the storm. Space twisted and warped. Energy pulsed in waves, shaking the ship. Every system strained. The cadets gritted their teeth, holding their stations. Rian focused on the emitter. He sent a new pulse, structured, patterned, precise. The drift reacted immediately. Its folds slowed, energy concentrating at the core. The strange geometric shape inside glowed faintly, pulsing in time with the emitter. "Good," Hale whispered. "Now deeper. Align with the core fully." The storm shifted, folding around the Corvette. Energy surged, bending space and time. The cadets felt their bodies pressed by invisible forces. Panic threatened, but Rian held on. Then the drift pulsed once. The core stabilized. The storm seemed to breathe. The massive constructs paused. They had not attacked. Instead, they seemed to observe. Rian's pulse embedded another sequence. Not attack, protection, direction. The drift responded. Its energy aligned with the pulse. The constructs wavered, then began to retreat slightly. "It's working," Rian said. "It's learning. We can guide it." "To how?" "Its stability is fragile. One misstep and everything collapses." The Corvette moved closer to the core. Ryan sent the pulse directly into the geometric center. Energy waves rippled outward, folding the storm inward. The drift seemed to pause, listening to the pattern, responding to its logic. The cadets felt the force of the storm, but it was controlled. For the first time, they realized they were not fighting the drift. They were communicating. Then a warning flashed. The constructs were returning, faster this time. Their energy surged, arms of force reaching toward the drift. Ryan's pulse went faster, stronger, precise. The drift reacted instantly, expanding a protective shield. The constructs hit the edge of the shield and halted. Confused, they did not advance. Hale's voice was calm, but urgent. "Keep it steady. Align fully with the core." Ryan adjusted the harmonic pattern. It pulsed in waves, structured, directing the drift's energy. Slowly, the storm began to stabilize fully. The core glowed, pulsing in response to the emitter. For the first time, the drift did not attack. It had changed. It was protecting. Its folds expanded outward, shielding the Corvette and the surrounding space. The constructs paused, retreating slightly. Rian's pulse continued, reinforcing the directive. "Protect. Do not destroy. Shield the vulnerable." Hale watched silently. "You've done what no one else could. You've redirected it. But this is not permanent. We must act quickly." Rian nodded, exhausted but focused. "We need to reinforce the directive. Make it permanent. Only then can we save the sector." The Corvette trembled under the strain. Energy rippled through the void. The drift pulsed, listening, learning, adapting. Rian sent the pulse again, embedding the final sequence. The storm's energy aligned fully. The constructs wavered, then withdrew. The Corvette floated in the calm center of the storm. Hale placed a hand on Rian's shoulder. "You have changed the course of this threat. But remember, Cadet, the drift is not ours. It is still ancient, still powerful, and still learning." Somewhere in the void, intelligence waited, and humanity had reached it first. He whispered to himself, "We can guide it. We can protect. We will stop the destruction." Outside, the drift pulsed with new purpose. The ancient constructs had paused. The void was silent, for now, and the human cadet was ready. The Corvette floated at the center of the drift, silent except for the soft hum of the harmonic emitter. Rian's hands ached from hours of adjusting the pulse, but he did not stop. Every wave, every pattern had to be perfect. Outside, the vast storm shifted and pulsed, immense and alive, its folds now aligned with the structured directives he had embedded. Hull watched him quietly, calm but tense. "We've guided it this far, Cadet, but the constructs are still out there. If they fully activate, the sector will be lost. Rian nodded. I know, but the drift is learning. It can protect now, if I keep the pattern steady. The Corvette's sensors picked up distant energy waves. The ancient constructs had resumed movement, larger and faster than before. Their shapes were jagged, alien, their energy radiating a cold and immense presence. Rian adjusted the harmonic pulse again, embedding new patterns, creating a rhythm the drift could follow to defend, not attack. Focus on the core, Hale instructed. We cannot let it falter. The drift reacted instantly, its folds twisting outward, forming a shield around the Corvette and the surrounding space. Energy waves rippled outward, meeting the approaching constructs. For a moment, the massive machines paused, uncertain. They had not faced this kind of adaptive logic before. Rian's pulse strengthened, flowing like a river through the drift. Its energy became controlled, ordered, structured. The core pulsed in response, brighter and steadier with each wave. The cadets watched in awe. Never had they seen a weapon of pure destruction change its purpose in real time. The drift, once unstoppable, was now a protector. It aligned with the human pulse, responding to intent rather than instinct. Hale's voice was low, almost a whisper. It's responding to reason. The Corvette trembled under the strain. Instruments went wild as the drift absorbed energy from the surrounding void, bending it into a protective shield. The constructs tried to advance, but every step forward meant resistance. Their massive energy fields struggled to adapt to the changing environment. Rian adjusted the harmonic pulse again. This time he embedded more complex sequences, signals of protection, structure, and prioritization. The drift's folds expanded, pushing outward to intercept any attack. Energy arcs rippled across the void as the drift acted like a barrier between the constructs and the populated sectors. The cadets felt the pressure of the storm, but it was controlled. Instead of destruction, the drift now channeled its immense power toward defense. Ships at the edge of the affected sector detected the energy waves and were guided safely away, their sensors aided by the harmonics. Keep it steady, Hale shouted. Do not let the pattern falter. Ryan's fingers flew over the controls. He sent pulse after pulse into the drift's core, each wave reinforcing the directive. Slowly, the storm's chaotic energy became ordered. The constructs faltered, their energy fields unable to penetrate the drift's protective shield. Then, one of the massive constructs emitted a bright pulse. The Corvette shook violently. Systems overloaded. The cadets clung to their stations. Rian focused harder, embedding the final directive. Protect life. Stabilize the area. No harm to innocents. The drift pulsed once, twice, and then expanded its shield fully. The constructs tried again, but the shield held. Energy arcs struck them and were absorbed harmlessly. Slowly, the machines began to retreat, realizing their activation protocols conflicted with the new directive. Hale exhaled slowly. It worked. The drift is protecting the sector. The storm's folds now flowed smoothly, energy contained, core stabilized. The Corvette floated safely at the center, surrounded by controlled power. But Rian knew the stability was fragile. The drift was ancient, powerful, and adaptive. Its loyalty was not permanent. The human pulse had guided it, but the storm could revert at any moment if disrupted. We need to reinforce the directive, Rian said. Permanently. The sector is safe now, but only for a short time. Hale placed a hand on his shoulder. Then we finish this. Together. They sent the harmonic pulse one final time, embedding a permanent pattern into the drift's logic. It was no longer reactive. It had learned. It would protect, not destroy. The storm shifted, then pulsed once more, and then controlled. Outside, the constructs retreated fully, deactivated by the new directive. Space returned to calm. The Corvette floated in the quiet, surrounded by the ordered folds of the drift. The cadets exhaled, relieved. They had witnessed something impossible. A weapon of extinction, redirected by human logic and will. Hale turned to Rian. Cadet, you've changed the rules. No one believed a human could do this. Not even me. But you proved it possible. Rian looked out at the vast storm. Somewhere deep within it, intelligence waited, patient and aware. It had responded to understanding, not force. We've only delayed the danger, Hale said quietly. The drift is still out there, still powerful. But humanity has shown it can influence it. That is the real victory. Rian nodded. He felt the weight of what they had done. Not just survival, but guidance. Not just defense, but reason. Somewhere in the silent void, the drift pulsed, aligned with the human directive. The ancient constructs were gone. The sector was safe, and for the first time humanity had reached a weapon that no one else could control and shown it a choice. Hale placed a hand on Rienne's shoulder. You are no longer just a cadet. You are a symbol. Humanity can reason. Humanity will survive. And sometimes that is the most powerful weapon of all. Rienne looked back at the stars. The drift pulsed quietly, a silent guardian now. He whispered to himself, We did it, and we will be ready next time. Outside the Corvette, space was calm. The storm waited, patient. The universe had witnessed something extraordinary. And somewhere, faint and distant, a ripple returned, a subtle reminder that the ancient network of the drift might not be gone entirely. But humanity had found its answer, and the human cadet had shown that no weapon could stop them, not by force, but by thought, will, and courage. The Corvette turned toward home. Hale and Ryan, side by side, watched the stars, knowing the battle was won. For now, the universe was vast. The threats were many, but humans would never give up.